These objects are not residual echoes. They are predators that learned how human flesh fails, and they have spent centuries practicing on anyone who touches them. In 1840, a grieving mother in rural Pennsylvania bought a porcelain doll with glass eyes and real human hair for the daughter she had just buried. She placed the doll in the child's arms and sealed the coffin. 3 nights later, the grave was found clawed open from the inside. Dirt under tiny fingernails. The doll sat upright on the shattered lid, black fluid leaking from its painted tear ducts, and every one of the dead girl's fingernails had been torn out and jammed beneath the doll's smiling porcelain lips like trophies. That doll has changed owners 17 documented times. Each death follows the same pattern. The throat collapses inward as if crushed by an invisible fist. The tongue swells black, splits down the middle, and floods the mouth with the same tar-like fluid. Investigators always find the doll perched on the victim's chest, fresh blood under its tiny nails, glass eyes tracking whoever opens the door. Collectors who specialize in tethered killers know the pattern by now. These items do not haunt rooms. They hunt nervous systems. They study breathing rates, sleep cycles, and the exact pounds of pressure required to separate a jaw from its hinges. The Victorian hand mirror that once belonged to an actress murdered in 1887 still shows the last face it ever reflected. Except the reflection is never static. Skin peels away in wet, curling strips, while something with elongated teeth and too many knuckles leans over the viewer's shoulder. One London buyer smashed the glass in terror. He woke the next morning with mirror shards erupting from both eye sockets like jagged crystal teeth. Surgeons tried to extract them. The shards twisted deeper, whispering the actress's final choking words directly into the soft tissue of his brain until he tore his own face apart with his bare hands. The largest fragment was later recovered from his stomach. It still showed her screaming. Then there is the Dybbuk box, a simple wine cabinet sealed with 83 hand-forged nails and wrapped in Hebrew warnings that translate roughly to, "Do not open, it is already inside." The last man who ignored the warnings filmed himself prying the lid. He laughed for the camera. 12 hours later, his tongue was discovered nailed to the kitchen wall with 3 of those same iron nails, the muscle still twitching in wet spasms. His body lay in the corner, every major joint bent completely backward, so the bones punched through the skin in white splinters. The word "mine" had been carved over and over into the meat of his thighs by what coroners described as the fingernails of small children. The box itself was gone. It reappeared 3 states away on another collector's doorstep, warm as fresh liver and smelling of copper and spoiled milk. That collector lasted 4 days. They found him fused to his bedroom floorboards, skin melted into the wood in a perfect outline of the box's base. Cursed jewelry behaves with particular cruelty. A sapphire ring pulled from a 17th century plague pit forces its wearer to watch their own fingers blacken, split like overripe fruit, and leak a sweet-smelling pus, while invisible hands slowly push the rotting meat back between their teeth. One woman in Prague chewed completely through both cheeks trying to stop the taste. When police broke down the door, she was still wearing the ring. It pulsed against her finger like a second heart, and every mirror in the apartment showed her reflection continuing to chew long after her body had stopped. Another piece, a silver locket containing a lock of hair from a hanged witch, clamps shut around the owner's throat during sleep. The chain tightens with slow, deliberate clicks. Victims wake, clawing at their necks, only to discover the locket has grown tiny barbed teeth on the inside. One man in Vermont was found with the locket buried halfway into his windpipe. The hair inside had woven itself through his vocal cords like roots. Furniture kills just as efficiently. The Busby stoop chair, a dark wooden seat linked to a condemned murderer in northern England, has a simple rule: sit in it, and your death is already scheduled. Thomas Busby himself was hanged in the 1700s after murdering his father-in-law. Before the noose tightened, he swore that anyone who sat in his chair would die screaming. The pub that housed it recorded at least 60 sudden deaths. One airman sat for a dare in 1967 and died in a high-speed crash the next afternoon, his body so thoroughly compacted that recovery crews needed shovels. Another man mocked the legend, sat down, and was later found in his bathtub with every major blood vessel ruptured from the inside, as if something had reached through his skin and squeezed. The chair was finally hung from the ceiling, so no one could use it. People still report hearing it creak at night, wood straining under an invisible weight, and finding deep fingernail gouges in the seat that were not there the day before. Paintings are worse because they watch back. The canvas known among collectors as the Anguished Man was painted with the artist's own blood mixed into the oils. One family in the north of England filmed the painting for 3 nights. On the 4th morning, their youngest son was discovered standing in front of it, with both eyes gouged out by his own thumbs. The bloody thumbs were still pressed against the painted man's smiling mouth. The youngest son stated, "He showed me how it feels." Wedding dresses carry their own particular malice. A Civil War-era gown kept in a private museum in the American South has strangled 3 brides who dared to try it on for photographs. The high lace collar tightens with impossible strength. One woman's neck was found compressed to the diameter of a broom handle. The tiny pearl buttons had been driven so deep into her flesh that surgeons needed pliers. Witnesses swore they heard a second female voice whispering vows in a language no one recognized while the dress did its work. A music box from the same era opens by itself in the dark and plays a lullaby that forces listeners to claw at their own ears until the cartilage hangs in strips. One owner was discovered having driven knitting needles through both eardrums. The music box sat open on his chest, still turning, still playing, even though its spring had been removed years earlier. There are more. A child's rocking horse that rocks harder and harder until it tips forward and crushes the rib cages of anyone who sits on it after midnight. A deck of tarot cards that leaves paper cuts on the reader's hands, cuts that refuse to clot and instead spell out the reader's own name in blood across the table. A sailor's sea chest that fills itself with seawater and human teeth, no matter how many times it is emptied. The last man who slept near it was found drowned on dry land, lungs packed with black salt water and 73 molars that did not belong to him. A porcelain mask from a forgotten plague doctor that fuses to the wearer's face, growing roots into the sinus cavities and whispering diagnoses of diseases that do not yet exist, while the victim's skin necrotizes in perfect circular patterns. These items share one hunger. They want a body that can move them to new victims. They learn the layout of your home, the sound of your footsteps, and the exact moment your defenses drop. People who mock them wake with their own teeth lodged in their throats, eyes filled with the same black fluid that once leaked from a dead child's doll, or skin peeled back in neat surgical flaps that spell warnings in languages the victims never studied. Entire bloodlines have ended after one ancestor brought home a harmless antique. The objects are patient. They will sit on a shelf for decades if necessary, cooling, quiet, almost beautiful, until the right set of hands lifts them. If you feel watched by something that should not possess eyes, do not turn on every light and laugh it off. Check the things you have inherited, purchased at estate sales, or accepted as gifts. Look for items that feel slightly warmer than the room. Listen for soft sounds coming from inside drawers that should be empty. And if you ever find a porcelain doll with something dark crusted under its nails, a mirror that shows a face that is not yours, or a wooden chair that seems to lean forward when you pass, leave it exactly where it is and walk away. These objects have already rehearsed how they will wear your skin. They are only waiting for you to give them permission by touching them one more time. Some prisons are made of wood and porcelain and glass. The worst ones smile when you pick them up.